Three kings. Cell lysis would allow the escape of this trimolecular species into the extracellular medium, into the daylight of the moon, into the cold black starry cosmos, where the sun would never come back as we know it. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritual Sancto, pointing at the relief in the edifice of Taharqa. Lucia then said, the mound represents the rising Osiris, who is exercising from the cell due to the crow protein victory and consequent lytic lifestyle. She said, the rites of the divine re-entrance occur in this last room. The ceremony simulates the arrival of Amun-Ra, Lord of the thrones of the two lands, which are the two arms of Lambda Genome. A priest welcomes a short procession led by a prophet carrying a shrine chest with a curved roof containing a sacred Uraeus or cobra. Four attendants follow, bearing a rectangular tabernacle with a curved roof. A priestess is next, with her left arm covered and her right hand holding a palm, an Osirian symbol of the vegetation gods' victory over inertness, that is, the victory of vegetative lytic replication over lysogeny. The legend under the tabernacle state, the earthquakes, a reference to the earth cell bursting into flames, or the flood of viral progeny from lytic replication. At this point, we were recognizing that the tabernacle represented the soon-to-rise Osiris, and that Lucia had a substantial amount of evidence supporting the idea that the edifice mapped the lytic pathway to eternity. Yet what disturbed us more than the idea of a viral human was that Lucia was not telling us everything about her Isis thesis. She gave us limited information because of the code of ancient Egyptian signs that she cracked. Nor did she give us the Egyptian direction for the path to eternity. We had no choice but to listen to her rambling explanations, hoping she would tell us soon. In the text, Lucia then showed us the scene of the central mound of Osiris, a crypt buried in a mound, surrounded by a wall and supported by an acacia tree. To the right was a carving of Taharqa throwing 4 balls. The rite began by cursing the north quarter of the world, then the west, south, and east. Then the pharaoh, attired in a kilt and ceremonial tail, ran toward each of the 4 cardinal directions, throwing 1 clay ball in each direction with his right hand to destroy Amun's enemies. The text describing the balls claims that they protect Ra and are born of him. The balls are born of the sun god Ra, Lucia said, suggests the production of viral progeny. The apocalyptic act of throwing balls or clearing away the world can be compared to the usual result of lambda progeny production, which is lysis, cell lysis, or destruction of the cell. Balls or discs suggest the spherical phage heads, rolling circle replication, and the symbol of Osiris bent backward in a circle. We stared hard at the image of the pharaoh with his right hand raised, his legs spread to throw, and his left arm stretched out like a pitcher bent on winning the World Series. This, Lucia said, is the same image of the envoy of heaven beneath the winged disc in the book Amduat from both the tomb of Seti I and the tomb of Ramesses VI. The image of Taharqa with his 4 balls reminded me of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, who each exercise destructive power over a fourth of the earth. John, his bloodline Irish, was thinking similar thoughts about power over earth. Boiled like a potato in the waters of the Roman Catholicism since he was a child, he realized that the activity of the four horsemen in the book of Revelations was the same as Pharaoh Taharka's ball game. Surprised, he stared at the image in the book as if it had stolen something sacred from him. But his loss was not related just to his faith, for the roots of deceit went much deeper, and he knew it. The loss was the theft of his identity, his being, his thinking of controlling social forces that had distorted knowledge with lies, history, religion, psychology, to only name three, had created an inauthentic world to enslave a man's thought and make him mill around confused like a sheep to be slaughtered. John knew his biblical history and the account of the four horsemen of the apocalypse written by the virgin apostle John, symbolized by an eagle. He knew there was no document with evidence for the exact year the book of Revelations was written. Composed about 155 CE, Justin Martyr's work called Dialogue with Trypho was the earliest dependable evidence of the existence of Revelation. Martyr wrote that the Apostle John had a revelation related to a resurrection and judgment. Frowning, John lit up a cigarette and leaned back in his deck chair. The book of Revelations, he said slowly, was written in Greek, so it seems that the historians refashioned Taharka's ball game into a Greek cavalry raid. The Egyptian materials predates the Greek by at least 300 years. It was true that Taharka ruled about 660 BCE, and Alexander the Great spent several months in Egypt in 331 BCE during his campaign against the Persians. Some historical resources say that Greece and Egypt coexisted for 3 centuries, but others say Alexander conquered Egypt. Journeying on the Nile, Alexander arrived in the Egyptian city Memphis to study the customs and laws. He gave orders for temples at Luxor and Karnak, the location of the edifice to be restored. Appearing in Egyptian reliefs, wearing the ram horns of Amun with his Greek name translated into hieroglyphs, enclosed by the royal cartouche, it was written, "Horus, the strong ruler, he who seizes the lands of the foreigners, beloved of Amun, and the chosen one of Ra, Merriman, Stepa, Alexandros." One could easily see how an Egyptian ball game could turn into one of Alexander's cavalry raids. The conqueror fought battles on horseback, and horses were so important to the Greeks as Apis bulls were to the Egyptians. The Roman historian Plutarch tells an interesting legend about how Alexander acquired his powerful battle horse, Bucephalus. The large-headed black stallion was vicious and unmanageable, always refusing to be mounted. Yet Alexander had noticed that the horse was disturbed by his own shadow. So he approached the spirited animal, turned him into the sun, mounted him nimbly, urging him into a full gallop. From that moment on, Bucephalus never failed Alexander, until the worthy stallion died of battle wounds in 326 BCE. It was said that Alexander viewed this horse as an immortal and a gift from the gods. He later founded the city of Bucephala, thought to be the modern town of Helam in Pakistan, in memory of his stallion Bucephalus. It was obvious that the Greeks easily preferred charging a horse into battle over throwing balls at enemies, so they altered the Egyptian context. What bothered John was the process of history distorted and disturbed in Egyptian cell lysis chemistry that surfaced later in the Bible, a source claiming originality that did not understand the chemical intent. Actually, historians call the process of distortion syncretism, the fusion of mixing of various religious doctrines resulted in a loss of truth and the construction of the idea of God on the basis of lies. This same penchant for fictional creativity or lies is evident in our modern power knowledge system, such as education and medicine, that the control of thinking and the defined normalcy by claiming that they possess definitive knowledge, which is impossible. No wonder we are confused, for even a neurosurgeon would have had difficulty activating memory sequences in the smattered brain of human history. With this fragmented receiving organ, modern culture can only evaluate an unobservable past of memory sequences that are altered, written down, and repackaged by the prevailing power elite. So it was that John was truthful, surviving outside of history, outside of modern consciousness, surviving but buried within the lost meaning of the signs carved in the Egyptian pyramids and coffins. John believed that the truth haunted these abandoned relics that Lucia claimed she had decoded. Peace. Shalom. We'll be back with chapter 20 next time you see us.